Доброго дня, шановні колеги. Ми сьогодні розпочинаємо семінар.
Hello, dear colleagues. We are starting our workshop dedicated to Europe's Day, United by Values, Communication about Ukraine and the EU. I wanted to start from the fact that every year Ukraine celebrates Day of Europe, and the whole Europe is doing the same. You know that this holiday is not only for Ukrainians, it's for all the countries, all the European countries. And in 2023, the decree of the president was signed, and we, together with our colleagues, with our other European countries, celebrate this holiday on the 9th of May, and that's great because we all in our European community have joined a celebration on the 9th of May. This day holds significance for us, especially under such conditions Ukraine is in right now. That's why it's extremely important to remember about this day, taking into account all the events happening in Ukraine right now. If to talk about European values, you know that Euro integration process of Ukraine as of now has become especially dynamic, and it has been shown by our achievements. I'm pretty sure that today we are going to share those developments and those achievements that we already have in Ukraine for us to become full-fledged member of the European community, member of the European Union. Dear colleagues, our format of the meeting today is online. We are going to work only online. I would like to remind you once again about safety measures. If we have some kind of problems or air raid alarm, you need to go to the shelters, but broadcast will go on, and there will be the opportunity to review all of this on YouTube channel, because this recording will be saved. You'll be able to review it later once again, because I'm pretty sure that today we will have lots of interesting things for discussion. The events going on in Ukraine right now, events going on in our cooperation with the European Union and Council of Europe. There's those events that are happening and that progress that we have right now we'll try to highlight today. And we are really grateful to our colleagues who have the opportunity to join us and to take part in our today's event. So I would like to go to the introductory part and give the floor to Natalia Alyushina, please.
Шановні учасники, колеги та колежанки.
Dear participants, colleagues, students, and lecturers, I'm happy to welcome you at our event dedicated to Europe's Day, the day that has become for Ukraine not only a holiday, not only a celebration, but also a reminder about our choice, our price for freedom, and our belief in joint European future. Today's celebration is special. We are not just declaring our aspiration to join the European Union, but we are also in the active phase of the negotiation process on the accession. Every day, day by day, we are bringing our legislation closer to the standards of the European Union. This path has never been easy, but even under extremely difficult circumstances during the war, public service is demonstrating example of resilience, efficiency, and responsibility. In the hottest spots and in rare areas, in administrations and communities, public officials maintain sustainability of governance. Public service today is not just a system, it's a platform for reform, the basis of our dialogue with the EU, tool of implementing European norms and practices. And that's why its strengthening is one of the biggest priorities on our way to the European integration. Ukraine facility, new financial framework of the European Union, opens lots of opportunities for us to develop Ukraine, to keep on developing Ukraine, but also it's a challenge for public service. That youth that is studying right now in the sphere of public governance is not a future. This is already our nowadays. You will be implementing your integration policies, building modern institutions and implementing new standards. You are those who are turning Euro integration from motto into reality. Dear colleagues, I wish all of you fruitful discussion today of the most relevant topics of the modern state building, inspiring speeches and insightful thoughts. I hope that our today's event for each of us will be yet one more step towards strong, transparent European Ukraine. During the times of war, during the times of challenges and transformations, we all together, not just getting closer to Europe, but we create it here at home, day by day, action by action. Thank you, Natalia, dear colleagues. It is my great pleasure to give the floor now to Alexander Ilkov, General Director of the Governmental Office of Coordination of European and Euro-Atlantic Integration. Please. Yes, hello, dear participants, dear colleagues, participants of this workshop. First of all, I would also would like to greet all of you with the Days of Europe, the day that symbolizes solidarity, unity, and prosperity on all European continent. Day of Europe is yet another opportunity to highlight the fact that Ukraine and the European Union is united by joint values, democracy, freedom, rule of law, respect to rights of humans and dignity. And these values that our country is now protecting. Our way to Ukraine to integration is not only political declaration, it's conscious choice of our people. Ukraine is demonstrating not only the political confidence and resilience, but was also taking practical steps that are bringing us closer to the same. Right now, we are passing successful screening on the national legislation, so that it is in compliance with the EU acquis. It is an indispensable part of the accession process. It is a complicated process, but extremely important, that shows our readiness to be integrated in the space of the EU. We have already finished two site meetings with three negotiation clusters. The first cluster, the basis of the accession, the second, external relations, and external market. We started screening on the legislation of the next cluster, competitiveness and inclusive development. And in October, we will fully finish the official process of Ukrainian legislation screening. It's unprecedented space for such large-scale process, and our partners from the European Commission proves that. And generally, as you know, we have very ambitious, but at the same time realistic aim for us to implement all the EU legislation till 2027. Right now, Ukraine is ready to move to the next stage in its Euro integration path. It's opening of the specific negotiation cluster. In particular, for the opening of the first cluster, basic, this is the main one in the negotiation process. We are in close cooperation with the European Commission, has developed and improved projects of roadmaps in the sphere of rule of law, the reforms of state governance. We have also approved and created the project of negotiation position of Ukraine within this cluster. That also proves our readiness to perform all the commitments within our negotiation process. Apart from that, we also proved the project of the roadmap of functioning of democratic institutions, and also protection of national minorities, that is presupposed as a mandatory document in our negotiation framework. Generally, this year, we hope that we will be able to open simultaneously all 6 negotiation clusters for Ukraine. It is extremely important political step that will mean deep modernization and recovery of the country in compliance with the European standards. All these steps only prove that Ukraine is ready to dynamically move on towards the EU membership. We perceive the EU integration not just a formal process, but just a deep transformation that will concern every sphere of life of Ukrainian society. We are grateful to the European Union for support, solidarity, and trust in our capacities, but we also believe that our success depends on ourselves. So that's why Ukraine is fully committed to conduct all the necessary reforms. From our side, we are absolutely ready to have this systematic and logical work that is aligned with strategical development of our country and a conscious choice of Ukrainian people. I wish all of you today fruitful and successful workshop, and today my colleague will be here, Alexander Kli, and he will give you more details about all the steps that have already been done and those that are still ahead of us. Thank you for attention. Thank you, Alexander. Really, today we are going to have practitioners, experts, people from academia, so we have very interesting various format of participants, and it will encourage our better awareness on the matters of European integration and better and European values. So, dear colleagues, now it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Maria Marchenko, the Deputy of the General Directorate on the Matters of Euro Integration Office of the President of Ukraine. Maria, please. Thank you for giving me the floor. First and foremost, I wanted to greet you on Europe's Day, and it seems to me that right now it's unprecedented amount. As you can see, presidents of Ukraine for phone calls, and today it's also event in Lviv, informal session of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, and there will be some more visits in the future, and it shows that we are really united by joint European values. For us, it is extremely important, but also it is we feel this unprecedented support. Since Alexander has already talked about clusters, key clusters of our achievements, I just would like to talk a little bit more about political matters, because really our homework has been done on preparing two screening sessions and clusters, and we have done it with flying colors, and I believe that it's unprecedented speed, and all our partners prove that, and also the report of the Euro Commission proves that. But nevertheless, of course, here I would like to express gratitude to Olga and her team for a very great coordination work, actually, for preparing roadmaps. We involved all the bodies of government, and we really had unity and agreement in our work, so we do rely on further activities and further joint work. We see that even more, despite our technical readiness, we see also the importance of political process, the unity of country members. The president on his level, and also the office of the president, and even all recent consultations of vice president with the Hungarian side shows us that we need to understand every country member, that at every political moment can put certain political obstacles for us. That's why it is extremely important right now to also have efforts on political level. That's what we are doing right now. We are working on having unity to omit obstacles in our further negotiation process. We also hope that in the nearest future we will not have it anymore, and when in June, when will be the presidency of Poland, we will also have meetings with Tusk, and we will be able to open the first cluster, and jointly with Moldova and other countries, with Balkan countries, we will be able to successfully start further negotiation process and working with other clusters. We really have ambitious goals. Till the end of the year, we want to open and close all the clusters. Of course, to close, it's very ambitious, but I hope that with our expert preparation and thanks to also higher school and qualified support of our people, we will be able to achieve all these goals in the nearest future. So we also do rely on further trainings, and I also would like to emphasize the importance of recent trainings on gender equality, decentralization, and it is extremely important for us, since even when we become members of the European Union, just has already mentioned, we will have our roadmap and our goal is 2027. We will need even more experts in the European integration, very wide sphere. It's also about local level, and even people from agriculture that will be working in Brussels. So that's why we do rely on further expert dialogue and training of specialists. I wish all of you a successful discussion. Thank you for attention. Thank you, Maria. Dear colleagues, you know, And now it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor to our next speaker, since European integration is impossible without institutions of the European Union, in particular, Department of the European Union in Ukraine. I would like to give the floor, a delegation of the EU to Ukraine. I would like to give the floor to Asier Santilyan, the head of the European Integration, Governance and Rule of Law, Civil Society. Please, Mr. Asier Santilyan, the floor is yours.
Dear Natalia, dear Alexandra, today we celebrate the Europe Day, and I am honored to stand with Ukraine and with all of you in reaffirming the values that unite us: peace, democracy, the rule of law, and human dignity. These are the values on which the European Union is built. These are the values that Ukraine defends today, facing brutal aggression. The war is not only about territory. It is about Ukraine's right to belong to the European family. Many of you know that Europe Day commemorates the Schuman Declaration of 1950, made just 5 years after the end of the World War II. French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman proposed a revolutionary idea, binding nations so close through economic cooperation that war would become not only unthinkable, but materially impossible. This vision laid the foundation for the European Union. It was born from the ashes of conflict, from the painful lessons of war and division. That is why Europe Day resonates so deeply for Ukraine today. Ukraine is not only fighting for its own future, but for the future of Europe, defending the same values, seeking the same pace, and pursuing the same integration that transformed and united the Western Europe. Just like the founding EU countries, Ukraine is now rebuilding its future through cooperation, reform, and unity. Over the past year, Ukraine has made historic progress on its EU path, with accession negotiations opening in December 2023. By April 2025, the European Commission has completed a screening of several chapters. In parallel, Ukraine has developed 3 key roadmaps for the rule of law, democratic institutions, and public administration, which lay the foundations for any future EU member country. But this journey beyond laws and negotiation clusters and negotiating chapters, it's about people. Ukrainian people has demonstrated that when there is political commitment, it can deliver. Nowhere is this clearer than in the area of digitalization. Despite the war, Ukraine is emerging as a regional leader and one of the frontrunners in the European digital administrative space. From digital ID to public service portals, Ukraine's progress in e-governance is setting a new standard, not just for the region, but for parts of the EU as well. Ukraine is also an excellent example of how digital resilience can help the country withstand brutal attacks in the unprovoked and unjustified war of aggression started by Russia. These achievements attest the meaningful reform is possible, even under the most difficult circumstances. However, as the example of digitalization shows, EU integration only becomes real when it changes daily life for citizens. And that depends on one group more than any other: public servants. Public servants are the ones who will bring EU values to life, deliver public services, enforce law, and build trust. Without a capable civil service, words on paper or in the digital space cannot be made into reality. This is the reason why public administration reform is a fundamental reform for the EU membership. We often hear on various situations, in case of an emergency, you must put on your own oxygen mask first before others. Ukraine's institutions must be able to fair play, modern merit-based recruitment, professional training, and IT systems. They should be also a reminder that actions are much more important than speeches. Despite the enormous resilience of Ukraine's public administration, Ukraine's civil service is in the earliest stages of EU readiness. It is high time for Ukraine to roll up the press lips and deliver on critical reforms with a strong, stable, accountable, and professional civil service Ukraine can turn aspiration into implementation and commitment into progress. In this journey, the EU will continue to stand with Ukraine, not only in solidarity, but with shared vision and tangible support. Ukraine's European path has become a lived reality. It is time to ensure that this becomes a driving force on this journey, as well as for the future EU membership. Happy Europe Day, and Slava Ukraine.
Героям слава, дякуємо.
Glory to Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, Sierra. We're extremely grateful for your participation. And now it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor to our next speaker. Europe is not possible without the Council of Europe, and that's why it is extremely a big pleasure for me to give the floor to Mr. Daniel. We have been cooperating for so long already, and really this cooperation that is happening within our cooperation with the project of Council of Europe is unprecedented. And as of now, it is amazingly progressive, wonderfully effective, and that's why I would like to give the floor to you, Mr. Daniel, the head of the Department of the Promotion of Local Democracy, Secretariat of the Congress of Local and Regional Governance of the Council of Europe, please.
Доброго ранку, good morning. Thank you very much for these kind words and for giving me the floor. I can only second what the other speakers have said about, the very special place where Ukraine is now, not only in a war and resisting this aggression, but also in a situation where the gates of Brussels are wide open, but the road is still very long to Brussels. A lot of reforms still need to be done. And I was very happy to hear about the success of the negotiations, the clusters and chapters already open, and I do hope that this objective, which was presented of finalizing them by 2027, will be achieved. And as Marina said, to a certain extent, the road to these open gates of Brussels also go through Strasbourg, because it is about all this reform, it is about how authority is organized and exercised. And this is the definition of governance. I will be speaking mostly about governance at local level because this is what our project is focused on. And indeed, I always said the main resource of a local authority and of authorities in general is not its budget, it's not its property or its legal competencies, but its human resources, its staff. And the question of how to make sure that staff is efficient, is ethical, does its best for offering good services, is essentially for the quality of governance. So it's essential for the success of the reform and of the integration in the European Union. And indeed, there are many, many questions. The reform of civil service is one of the most technically difficult and to a certain extent also politically sensitive reforms in an administration, in the system of a country, because you need to establish the rights, incentives, the rights and obligations of civil servants, the way they are hired, fired, and promoted, the right system of remuneration and of economic stimulation for people to want to work in local authorities and to have the necessary competencies. You need to establish the right system of training. So all this complex system is incredibly difficult. And in fact, most countries are still struggling and are still revising it many, many years after the decentralization process has been accomplished. And I can only praise the National Agency of Civil Service of Ukraine and Ms. Natalia Alyushina for the progress which has been achieved. We have contributed to, of course, to the law which was adopted 2 years back in 2023. Of course, it can't be implemented until 6 months after the end of the martial law. And also on quite a number of bylaws adopted by the government or by the National Agency of Civil Service. And indeed, all these constitute a lot of work. There are still things to be done, of course, but we do hope that they will be progressing at the same rhythm as the negotiations for the accessions to the EU. And of course, we are ready to continue to offer our modest support. And of course, all I can say is I wish you a lot of success in your reform with this conference, with all the other endeavors, and hope that we will have a lot of good news in the coming future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Daniel. We have been talking today about the importance of human resource, about the human potential in the bodies of local self-governance, and actually people that have to work, that have to have knowledge. And our today's event is organized together with the High School of Center of Adaptation to the Standards of the European Union University, KROK, or STEP, and that is actually educational institution that we have been cooperating with for a pretty long time already. We conduct various events, and today's event is just a proof of that. So it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor right now to Mr. Andriy Kuchko, Rector of KROK University, please. Thank you. Dear colleagues, I would like to congratulate everyone on Europe's Day, the celebration of unity and joint values. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the National Agency on Public Service and Natalia Alushina, the head of the National Agency of Ukrainian Civil Service, for this opportunity to take part in this very important event. Today, we all as never feel the strength of European solidarity and support, because Europe is not just a geography, it's a joint idea, culture, responsibility. And when we celebrate Europe's Day, we do not just remember the history, we also improve our place in the joint European house. Euro integration is one of the main directions of the work of KROK University. We have been actively cooperating student and teachers' mobility. We participate in lots of grants of the European Union. We conduct systematic changes, adapt our processes to the standards of European space to improve the quality of education in Ukraine. Apart from that, we also train specialists to have Euro integration processes, in particular based on the request of the National Agency. We find really close all the values of the European Union that we have been talking today about. Our workshops will be talking about that. Tatiana Delavska and Irina Rybak in their speech, Values That Unite Europe and the Country. I wish all of us great work today. Thank you for attention. Thank you, Andriy. I would like to mention that yes, we really do closely cooperate with educational institutions of Ukraine. We cooperate with professional development centers, because it is impossible to work in the vacuum. We have to all together work and develop and to turn theory into practice. And our colleagues really help us from various educational institutions, our experts, our international partners, our projects of international technical support. And our today's event is done with the technical support of the Swiss-Ukrainian project DECIDE, Decentralization for Improvement of Democratic Education. And that's why, dear colleagues, for us it is extremely important also to have cooperation with all the structures, with all the bodies of governance. And now I would like to emphasize once again that today our focus is directed towards, once again, remembering how European institutions work. We once again need to remember about all these values that unite Europe, all these matters about the resilience of state service, public service during the war. So we really have unique experience on that, and our governmental bodies and our projects and our experts, we are all actively working on this matter. You know that the Higher School of Public Governance also have pretty serious experience in the whole range of programs about the matters of the European integration. And in fact, we do not have just the week of Europe as we decided to have this year. It's more than 1 week. I would like to say that we are constantly working in this aspect, because next week we are also going to have an event dedicated to the matters of implementing tools of European development. We are going to have big conference in the system of quality management that is supported by whole Europe and European Union countries. So today we really have lots of developments on Euro integration processes in Ukraine, and we really all the best, so that we really can use all the best practice from Ukraine, and so that we can have the opportunity to work together. And as I have already mentioned, it is impossible to perform lots of events and to host lots of events and to implement lots of our ideas and developments without the projects of international technical support. And I would like to give the floor to Ms. Valentina Poltorak, the manager of Swiss-Ukrainian project DECIDE. Please, Valentina, the floor is yours. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, dear colleagues. For me, it is a great, of course, it is a great honor to support such important communication events, because really now we have active process of Euro integration, of agreeing our legislation with the European framework. Our project is actively supporting all the projects in education sphere. We are supporting communities today in implementing several strategic reforms for Ukraine. Also, we are supporting state civil service in general in the sector of education. It is extremely important for us to increase institutional capacity in this segment, because the education is our future, and it is understandable that through such directions and approaches we can integrate to cultural, educational, scientific environment of the European Union. So that's why I would like to wish all of us today fruitful discussion, fruitful negotiations, and of course, victory to all of us. Thank you. Thank you, Valentina. Dear colleagues, dear participants, once again, I would like to express my gratitude for such nice words. I would like to once again congratulate everyone on Europe's Day, and I would like to remind you that we have now broadcast on YouTube channel. Those who do not have the opportunity to stay with us till the end, I recommend all of you to review it later, because really we are going to have lots of interesting discussions today. You will get the latest news about what's going on in the sphere of the European integration. Trust me, it was very difficult to join our experts, today's participants, because really today this matter is extremely relevant. And once again, I would like to highlight that fact that we are going to have very interesting speeches ahead, so stay tuned. As they say, we already actually starting the practical part of our today's event, and it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor to our colleagues from the University Krok. The first session is going to be dedicated to the matters of values that unite Europe and Ukraine. Ms. Tatiana Dalavska, the Senior Manager of Information Media of University Krok, and Ms. Irina Rybak, Director of the Department of the Education for Adults at the University Krok, and they actually will be talking about this. So, dear colleagues, please. Highly esteemed colleagues, participants of the workshop, viewers, listeners, so we welcome you here. And today we would like to highlight on the practical point of implementing European values, in particular in the context of sustainable implementation of European values, and the role of higher education and modern institution of higher education, the European integration and implementing European values. We, of course, have no doubts that Ukrainian country, Ukrainian state has declared its European choice with confidence, and really it sounds very high-fly, but it's our reality that European values, actually that incentive that we all fight for, and actually this resistance to Russian aggression is resistance to perform our European way. The European identity and our national resilience is they are interrelated matters and phenomenon. They are strategically interconnected and related, and transformation of Ukrainian state and the way to European integration, first and foremost, is a fight for our Ukrainian subjectivity, and we need to understand that this national resilience, this is first and foremost look ahead. It is our nowadays, and it is definitely not a look in the past. It is fighting with the Soviet heritage. It is fighting with some imperial narratives. It is building the way in where Ukraine and Europeans will be happy and are happy. And state policy in that area, as of now, is pretty powerful, because today we already can talk confidently about decommunization, about decolonization of our historic heritage. It is de-Russification. It is support of the status of Ukrainian language that is protected in the public space by all the institutions, and first and foremost by educational institutions. It's implementation of the national system of resilience. It's implementation of the legislation on national identity, and really educational institutions and they are on the forefront of this process. We communicate cumulative effect of implementing and of understanding the importance of the European identity in comparison with Ukrainian national resilience, because it is unprecedentedly Ukrainian support values that are fundamentals of the European house, European society, European Union. We see here that statistical data of surveys conducted not so long ago, but actually they show a really resilient choice of Ukrainians, of European past, but at the same time authenticity of Ukrainian national identity. Because for us, first and foremost, it's important to have this priority of freedom over security. However strange it might sound, but it's difficult. Yes, really, we believe that the highest priority for us is freedom, it's democracy. We believe that our choice is 100% European one. It is not it's not a look in the past. We want to get away from this. We want to move forward. That's why this perception of Soviet heritage is pretty objective today in Ukrainian society. But nevertheless, if we take retrospective approach here, then 5 years ago the situation was different. 10 years ago, situation was different. It was extremely different in attitude to Soviet past and attitude towards Russia, and the role of those narratives, let's say, that were implemented by the aggressor country for a pretty long country in Ukrainian mental space. We are talking here today about that fact that all of this together is forming certain big infrastructure of Ukrainian national resilience. And this infrastructure is active, efficient, and education in general, higher education, and higher education institutions are inseparable component of this European choice, European integration, and Ukrainian national resilience as a phenomenon, as a notion. And when we talk about the role of higher educational institutions, first and foremost, we are talking here about long-lasting capacity of our society, of Ukrainian state, to deactivate the tools of hybrid influence of Russian aggressor. Today, the expertise is such that mental, let's say, cognitive deoccupation from the scientific point of view, based on expert conclusions, will take long, because it is a long-lasting work on implementing, on re-evaluating our past and forming pretty systematic vision of our future, first and foremost. And really, modern Ukrainian higher education institution is strategizing its educational activity in the dimension of sticking to European standards. It is a key key agent in implementing European and spreading European values. It is that practical dimension that frameworks the activity of higher educational institutions and, of course, all the other institutions of our educational system. And we also need to highlight and to emphasize that the resilience of Ukrainian education today is definite today, and we see how educational workers work from the most difficult moments of our history, our 24th of February, and really it is an indicator of Ukrainian resilience, national resilience. It is an indicator of our courageous nation that is fighting for a European choice. And in more details about the role of Ukrainian modern higher educational institution, I would like to emphasize on the second part of our speech, Tatiana. Hello, dear participants. To continue the topic, I would like to focus on the vision and role of modern higher educational institution. Really, under the conditions of war, we cannot talk about safety only in military dimension now. Today is also the matter of information, political, cultural, and value safety. In the period where our country is going through these challenges and the global world is moving towards commitments and responsibilities, education is having really important matters. Despite different infrastructural losses in education, we are pretty sure that Ukrainian education remains stable, it's reforming, and it is the strategizing, it's not only long-lasting planning, but it is also responsibility, intellectual and moral responsibility for society as well. And successful strategizing of higher educational institution is a bridge between national stability and European development. We believe in our university that educational process is a tool of national recovery and integration to the European society, and it should be built on human centricity and flexibility of education. We communicated repeatedly because we need to have student centricity and human centricity. Apart from that, we also have European principle of integration and rights of people and democracy, development of national resilience through innovative educational approaches, because tendencies change, and of course we need to have new approaches to certain educational process. Apart from that, it is integration of sustainable development goals in academic practice of higher educational institutions, and analyzing, for example, roles of Rock University in particular. I would like to talk about the roles that we need, that modern educational components should be directed towards the goals of national resilience. In particular, it should be such educational components as, for example, media literacy, critical thinking, because taking into account the development of AI, it helps people understand better and to deal with the disinformation and to understand what is happening, what is a reliable source and what is not so. Also, we have also one already mentioned, I think it's integration of sustainable development goals. In particular, in our university, we are reviewing such educational programs through the prism of sustainable development goals. In particular, now we have such goals in priority. Of course, we try to implement all the goals of sustainable development, all 17, but in priority, we have quality education, gender equality, economic growth, matters of fairness, and strong institutions. Apart from that, we are also implementing our educational programs. So once again, this educational component focused on sustainable development goals, in particular, sustainable marketing and climate management. climate entrepreneurship. And one more case, once again, as a manager of information media, I would like to emphasize that educational institutions also should use this communication as a tool of unity. And starting from 2022, more and more of our media changed the tone of their communication. We started talking more with the language of unity and support. We actively highlight significantly important topics of mental health in particular, barrier-free topics, support of veterans, and of course volunteer initiatives that we have a lot of. Apart from that, I would like to highlight on this joint value with the European Union as digitalization, because agree with me that and agree with us here that European society eagerly accepts this fact that Ukraine is a very digitalized country, and it's not only a matter of our powerful platform as DIA, but also other technological, let's say, services and know-hows that go through business sphere and educational sphere in particular. In the cases of our university, I would like to talk about eKrok, eStep. It is our digital platform for communication of students and teachers, lecturers about education and cooperation. It is a transparent, effective, and accessible digital space. To sum it up, I would like to emphasize once again that resilience, it is not only resistance, it's also a matter of seeing the future. It is that future where we can become stronger. And together with the European Union, we are building the safety based on solidarity, values, and humanity. Each step is our contribution to long-lasting goal to develop Ukraine as a part of sustainable, educated, and free Europe. But since still we are communicating, learning, we are forming reality where unity is not just a motto, is not just an empty word, but it's our joint value. Thank you for attention. Thank you, colleagues. Really, we need to have joint efforts so that we can achieve success. So that's why I would like to express gratitude to our colleagues right now and to present our next part. It is actually about Ukraine facility in particular. You know that it is extremely important today to talk about institutional capacity. We have a whole range of challenges and we need to have special criteria, and public service, civil service all has to coordinate projects in the dimension of new platform of the European Union. And that's why it is really pleasant for me that Ms. Yulia Shaipova agreed to participate in our today's event, because you, dear colleagues, will have this opportunity, as they say, from the practical point of view to hear what's going on in the sphere of Ukraine facility, and you will get this new knowledge and in particular great experience. And I would like to emphasize that we have such part as Q&A session, and those who are with us in YouTube right now, you can ask questions and we will give them to pass them over to our colleagues who are speaking, and you will be able to hear the answers to your questions. So please, Ms. Yulia Shaipova, let me introduce you, a senior project manager of the support of the team of the support of reforms of the Ministry of Economy of Ukraine. Please, Yulia. Hello, colleagues. Thank you for invitation. As Ms. Morena has already mentioned, I have been working with Ukraine facility and a little bit with European integration in the Ministry of Economics. I help coordinating these two very complicated and complex processes, and actually they are overlapping, and we are going to only make sure about that right now. Do you see my presentation? Yes, everything is amazing. We can see everything. That's wonderful. So then let's start. Can I flick through it? Yes. So let's start from the very basic things, as what actually is Ukraine facility, what it consists of. Ukraine facility is a program of financial support of Ukraine from the European Union, and it is actually unprecedented one from the point of view of volume and also the pace that has been agreed and implemented. It is 55 billion euros that will be directed on various needs, during 2024-2027. We actually already 1 year have been working on performing this program. It has 3 components. The first component, it is a so-called plan of Ukrainian support. We call it Ukrainian plan shortly. It's more than 38 billion euros for 4 years. It is support of budget through loans and grants, more loans, but they are pretty cheap and they are for a long time. So these are very cheap funds, cheap money that will not be so easy for us to get without this program. Actually, Ukrainian plan consists commitments concerning reform performance. We will talk a little bit later about that in more details, because it is the biggest component of Ukraine facility and probably the most important one. And accordingly, support based on the first component is provided on quarterly basis for performing certain commitments that Ukraine took on itself. The financing of this first component, or the first pillar, is used for covering our current expenses. It is definitely cannot go on a defense expenses. You know that pretty often they say that all taxes and all fees that Ukraine collect go for providing our defense capacity and so on. But in fact, it is covered by our partners. It's pretty significant part. For 2024, it was almost 40% of all international support. It was actually held within Ukraine facility. What else is important to say here, that 20% of grant money should be directed on the on covering the needs of regions. So it encourages decentralization, and also funds will stay not only on central level, but also they will go to communities. The second pillar of Ukraine facility, it is so-called investment fund. It is a little bit smaller, as you can see here, 6.97 billion. Here we are talking more about financing and involvement of investment to priority sectors. All the funds are being controlled by the European Commission, and financing is received by Ukrainian companies through international financial institutions. And actually, it encourages involvement of investments through guarantees that the European Union provides. Not only guarantees, but also grants. But that financing that can be got by the Ukrainian private sector. The third pillar of the Ukrainian facility is the technical administrative support for the government of Ukraine. It is that money that allocated within the projects of international technical support, and they are directed in helping and synchronizing our legislation with the EU acquis on structural reforms, on developing our capacity, and supporting European civil society, and so on. So this is a pretty complex program, unprecedented in its volumes and topics that it covers. And we are going to focus on Ukrainian plan because it is the biggest, the most practical, and it covers the biggest part if to talk about the reforms and engagement, involvement of our civil service, because more than 40 various central bodies of executive governance work on Ukrainian plan. The plan is dedicated into 3 big blocks. It's basic reforms, where we have the reform of public governments, judicial reform, fight against corruption, and management of finances. It is also, we also have a block of economic reforms. Here we have financial markets, improvement of financial environment, regional policy, management of state assets, and also development of human capital. And the third huge block covers the key sectors. It is priority spheres, development of which will incentivize complex economic growth. Here we have energy, transport, agricultural sector, critical material, SMEs, and so on. We also have cross-sectional directions, Euro integration, digital transformation, green transition. So everything that we are trying to have in every of the blocks, in each of the blocks. And what is important, what I have mentioned at the beginning, that Ukraine facility Euro integration actually overlaps a lot, because our commitments and facility, they are actually our commitments within the process of accession. So lots of indicators mentioned in Ukrainian plan are also directed towards adaptation of Ukrainian legislation on achieving compliance with the European standards, and they help us moving forward on our way to the EU. And actually, if to look at how these indicators are allocated and where we have more of them, where we have less of them, then we will see that right now we are at the peak. The biggest of indicators were number of indicators were in the first quarter of 2025, and pretty difficult quarters in the first quarter of 2025. And the second quarter, we also have lots of things that we need to perform. And 2025 really will be one of the most difficult years if to talk about reforms performance. As you can see, almost 70 reforms and more than 150 indicators. Indicators are divided into so-called simple indicators. It's just performance of reform, and investment indicators. Investment indicators presuppose performance of investment from the side of the state, from state budget and certain spheres. We have 16 such indicators, and they cover, for example, such things as reimbursement to producers of agricultural products for covering their needs on demining, or it can be financial support of small and medium enterprise through the program 579, or it can be capital modernization of schools, buying buses, some other repairment works and other commitments that we have here. And actually, Ukraine will report about allocating and spending the agreed amount of money in the end of 2025 and in the end of 2027. In the end of 2025, it is an interim that for 2024-2025, we managed to invest in various spheres this amount of money, and in 2027 it will be already final for 4 years, that in 4 years we managed to support such spheres on that amount of money. If to talk about the fact that what we already managed to do in 2024, then for the third quarter of 2024, Ukraine received, I see that I am wrong here with the numbers. I reviewed and I tried to update slides yesterday. I was thinking how to demonstrate it in better way, so there is a mistake here on the slide. But well, if to talk about commitment of 2024, Ukraine got more than 19 billion euros, but we managed to receive more 16 in 2024. So for the first quarter, this tranche came in April, so that's why in general we have 19.6 based on the commitment, but we managed to receive 16.2 in 2024. And actually this 16.2 billion that we got in 2024, these were 40% from the general international support for 2024. As you can see, tranches are pretty big. For the second quarter, it was 4.2 billion. Then the third 4.1, the fourth also. So it's very significant contributions, and if Ukraine does not perform some of the commitments, then we are not going to receive the tranche. Recently, the methodology was adapted of partial payments. So previously, if one indicator was not performed, the whole tranche was blocked. So one law is not adopted, 4 billion of euros blocked, and it will not go anywhere. And now we have methodology of how to calculate the price of a particular step, so it will be smaller number, but still Euro Commission is still assessing us on a quarterly basis, how we perform our commitments, how our reforms progress, each law, each decree of the government, each, IT system that we committed to implement, they are checked on compliance with the European plan by the team of the European Commission, and only in case of the positive assessment, Ukraine might get the next tranche. So that's why it's a pretty big work that is performed by 100 people without exaggeration in people, and all profile ministers are working on that. Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine that is adopting the laws, and Ministry of Economics is a national coordinator on Ukraine facility. Actually, our team is trying to have all these bodies working in synergy, and so that everything can be done fully and in a timely manner, everything that we committed for. so that the European Commission is fully satisfied with the results and so that we can get positive assessment. 2024 was a pretty full if to talk about the number of indicators, and as you can see, we started from smaller number and then it is increasing gradually, and then closer to 2026, 2027, the number of indicators will decrease, so the main part falls on the end of 2024, 2025. So we have time for, let's say, get in pace and to perform the biggest number of indicators as fast as possible, and then already in 2027 to gradually get out of this process. So we performed 36 steps. It is many parts of some reforms, but actually it is an amazing result, and it is the first time during this all the time while Ukraine is participating in various programs of international support that in 2024 we had no delays, everything was performed in a timely manner and fully. Most often when we talk about programs of international monetary funds, for example, we might have such situation when we cannot do it on time and we have negotiations, let's postpone, let's not get money for this now, and in 2024 in facility we did not have anything like that, and it was the great achievement of all the participants of this process. So what do we plan to have in 2025? In 2025, you see we have twice as many indicators, 56, and lots of laws, and it's also pretty complicated process because it has to go through Verkhovna Rada, and we are required not only to adopt the law, but we also need to pass it, so it has to be signed by the president, and it was written in the text that the law comes into force the next day after signature. So all these 56 indicators, they are divided into also all these chapters that we were talking about. So here we have the part about the reform of state governance and state service, it's reform of remuneration, it's competition, improvement of the procedure of entering, it's fight against corruption, and lots of other things about energy security and improvement of our ecologic situation. A lot we have here in the sphere of reform of education. For example, now we are viewing the law, we are viewing in Verkhovna Rada the law on professional education. Also, we have a lot here about modernization of infrastructure and digitalization. So it is pretty complex and large-scale process. Actually, concerning the structure, that's it. I will be happy to tackle all of the questions, but probably already after the next speakers. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. I would like to say that colleagues are writing in the comments whether it is possible to get the presentation and how this presentation can be used. So I would like to answer that it's practically useful for civil centers, for public servants, and also for our colleagues, lecturers and experts. Really, this information is the newest, the hottest, the most relevant. So I'm extremely grateful for providing us with the newest data, the latest numbers, and I would like to wish all of us success actually here, because really practically all bodies of state governance are involved. National Agency of Ukrainian Civil Services are taking active part in this process as well. So that's why, colleagues, we're really grateful. Julia, we are really grateful for such an amazing speech, a really great presentation. If you do not mind, we will be sharing, if you give this permission, with your presentation with others. Thanks a lot, dear colleagues. It is my greatest pleasure to give the floor now to Ms. Nadia Balabus, national expert of the project DECIDE. And I would like to mention here that we today already have heard about education and reforms in education, and now Ukraine facility, as Yulia was talking about reforms in education, about investment indicators, where we are also talking about education. So Nadia, please, the floor is yours. Hello, everyone. I would also like to join to all the congratulations on today's holiday celebration, and in the context of the speeches of previous speakers, in the context of generally the topic of our today's event, I also would like to talk about that fact which opportunities Ukraine facility opens for various spheres, in particular the sphere of education. So give me one moment, I will share my presentation and then we shall start.
Так, якщо видно мій
So
екран,
if you see my
тоді
screen,
розпочинаємо.
then
Так,
I would like to start. Yeah, so as you can see, new opportunities for transformation, Ukraine facility, everything connected with it, and actually getting ready to today's meeting, I would like to raise not very standard for Ukraine facility matter. Maybe it is standard. Maybe Yulia might add something to it later about values. Why are we talking about values in the context of Ukraine facility? And generally in the context of European integration processes of Ukraine. And I have raised this question for myself, and now I would like to ask all of you whether we can consider this tool, Ukraine facility, in this value dimension, whether we are thinking when we are talking about values, what it is actually, what does it mean for us? For me personally, I have defined that values, it is that matrix on the basis of which I make certain decisions, sometimes without even thinking about it. Sometimes these values have been formed by that society where I used to live, in that environment where I was brought up. And actually, these are that values that are now being actively promoted by our state. And since this decision-making matrix, so the values, in my opinion, is something that we have to start the work with when we work with such big project as Ukraine facility. And when we are talking about Ukraine facility, we are talking about the fact that at first we agreed on values between Europe and Ukraine. And on the basis of those values, we already formed the Plan Ukraine facility and other steps performed in this direction. So that's why, in my personal opinion, Ukraine facility is more than just a financing and support of Ukraine. It is actually that roadmap of recovery of our value recovery and update of our country, because we agreed these values with the European Union, and actually this value foundation makes Ukraine facility very unique in comparison with other formats of financial aid, as Yulia has mentioned. We are performing all our commitments, and it is a unique experience for our country. So how the values might influence the opportunities? We are declaring in our Euro integration aspirations, these are, of course, values of human dignity, equality, fairness, democracy, accountability, transparency. And when we declare such values, we need to understand that we are ready to sacrifice something for that value. So if, for example, we are talking about, let's take this life example, that if we say that our value is health, then we need to sacrifice something. We need to get rid of dangerous and unhealthy habits and so on. If we talk about the value of transparency, then we get away of corruption, we get rid of unfair competition, and so on and so forth. So these values, actually, when we get rid of something, when we get away of something, they open opportunities for us, opportunities for development, opportunities for openness of decision involving investments. We open opportunities to transform all these spheres that are priority for the country. And actually, that's what we strive to achieve in this program. And actually, why Ukraine facility? These are opportunities for transformations, because it is first and foremost reforms, and we know that the very notion of reforms, it is targeted change of some kind of system for improving of its functionality. And reforms are already taking place, because some indicators have already been performed in very key spheres. It is fight against corruption, it is education, as it has already been mentioned. Now we also have already adopted law on preschool education. It was also an indicator in Ukraine facility plan, and we are now considering the law on professional education. We have been actively working with the team on that. And these are also opportunities to improve something in those spheres which are in priority for the state. And apart from that, it is not just implementation of certain policies to perform indicator. So we are actually getting to all these processes, to the change of thinking, mindset, and for the whole government, from interactive to strategic. We are planning how it might influence in the future our nowadays and our future generations and so on. So that's why I believe Ukraine facility is this framework of transformation of Ukraine, and it puts all these frameworks agreed on values and principles with the European Union, and we cannot get away from that because actually it will be our exam that we need to pass before entering the European Union. And actually the Plan Ukraine facility and other components of this mechanism, they are not a document on values in direct sense of this word, but actually through all these values that we have defined at the beginning, performing all the indicators that we are proving and saying that these values are important for us, that we are ready to get away from what hinders us achieving all these joint goals. It is actually such important elements of this tool. And yes, this tool is of supporting Ukraine will be the example of the practical implementation of this support of the accession process. And I wish all of us to be successful in this exam, and based on this experience, based on this cooperation, we need to build that country that we want to see with all the values that we want to have, fair, democratic, European Ukraine. So I'm really grateful for attention, everyone, and I'm ready to answer all the questions. Thank you, Nadia. I would like to remind dear colleagues that you will have the opportunity to ask the questions in the comments on the YouTube channel to our speakers, and it is my pleasure once again to tell you that right now we are going to talk about the candidacy of Ukraine in the membership of the European Union, the matters of negotiation process, because really it is a very important step to European society, and everything depends on the quality of trained specialists and the negotiation process and all the events that are taking place within the negotiation process of Ukraine. We cannot have positive developments in our membership in the European Union. I would like to announce that we have representatives of the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. Alexander, I will give you the floor. If to talk about such specific steps, specific achievements in the sphere of negotiation process. But now I would like to get back to actually the beginnings, and I would like to give our participants, would like to remind our participants about what actually the European Union is, and what are the institutions there, and how European society appeared as this very powerful union. And I would like to mention that today, if to talk about all these institutions, about all those positions in the European Union, just several words. So if to talk about the members of the European Union, those countries that are already full-fledged members of the European Union, as of now we have 8 official members candidates to enter the European Union. If to talk about our status, we are also in this list. Ukraine in 2022 got the status of the candidate country of the European Union, and you know that it was pretty symbolic day, 23rd of June, International Day of Civil Public Service, and really it was very symbolic that actually it was that day when Ukraine got the status of the candidate to become the member of the European Union. If to talk about the matters about institutions, we were saying that we had the full range of institutions of the European Union. I'm not going to stop on that in details. You will have the opportunity to look through the presentation. We will have it on the website of the center and higher school, and you will be able to get more familiar with all of this. But I would like to say that today we were talking a lot about this EU accession to the European Union. It was extremely complicated procedure. We with the colleagues tried to show how important every stage is in this process, and really the procedure of accession has very long, very busy time if to talk about time frames and institutional components. And you see that as of now, we have a very significant successes. If to talk about new stages of the European integration, starting from 2013, you know, that was a very active process that started then, and till the period of 2025, we have done lots of steps, lots of work. And today, Julia was talking about Ukraine facility, but lots of events, lots of measures, they are interconnected, and really lots of normative legislative acts, they have become precondition, and they have become this opportunity for our further development in this sphere. I would also like to mention that if to talk about all these stages of the European integration, they were different, more active, less active. There was a period when we had lots of, let's say, the whole range of measures performed in various aspects of state governance. There were times where it was certain stagnation, but at the same time we are moving forward, and we have very positive trends here. If to talk about the main document, I would like to emphasize that it is actually our association agreement. It was signed in 2014, and if to talk about its when it came into force fully, it happened in 2017. And actually such, I would like to say, useful data about the agreement. I always say that agreement is not just a document in several pages. It is a very serious, big document. And if to talk even visually, then it has lots of pages. It wasn't 1,200 pages of the very document. It's a huge document. It consists of 7 chapters. It of course has its structure. It has the lots of annexes, and you also all have this opportunity to look through this information in more details later. If to talk about legislation, about normative acts, and really it is extremely important today not just to know and just to prepare. It is extremely important also all these laws, all these normative legislative acts that were presupposed in the association law and ratified in Ukraine, working in Ukraine. It is impossible without the human potential. It is impossible without employees. And if to talk about those reforms that are taking place right now, then really the European Union is supporting reforms significantly. And to talk about the formats, it is expert level and technical level, and of course financial level. And I'm pretty sure Yulia Shaipova already persuaded all of you that financial resource is extremely important for us today, especially right now when Ukraine is at war. If to talk about national agency of Ukraine on civil service, and to talk about all these matters of the European integration that are being coordinated by the national agency, in particular Center of Adaptation of Civil Service to the standards of the European Union, I would like to focus here on such, let's say, notes and those positions that are done by the Center of Adaptation, in particular its implementation of the European best practices through the tools of institutional development. And I would like to say that today, if to talk about technical support, probably you have all heard about this project, then these are those tools that we have available in Ukraine, and they are pretty efficient. This year, the twinning tool is 20 years in Ukraine, and today, in particular, under the conditions of European integration, it is important to implement all these tools, to implement such particular projects, because as of now, really, it is this very efficient and quality tools for implementing those reforms that are available in the European Union. If to talk about the very projects within twinning, then you can see what it can do. So it is a very specific project. First and foremost, it's an expert support, and it's a training of the staff, it's training of civil servants on all the innovations, European positions in each sphere of the public governance. Of course, a very important aspect is this development of national legislation that is in compliance with European standards in the special sphere. This is something that is extremely important, and we see how cooperation within this tools twinning, we can see the goals here, and we can see how this twinning tool is being implemented and what is the benefit of those projects that are being used in Ukraine. If to talk about the work plan of twinning projects, you see that there are lots of projects in various spheres. Next week, we are opening the new project of twinning in the National Bank of Ukraine. This year, we also agreed 6 projects in various bodies of state governance. So I would like to say that it's a really great achievement, and I'm pretty sure that for the next year, we will have more bodies that will apply for financing and implementing of twinning projects. So, dear colleagues, we will be really very grateful for this opportunity to use twinning tools in your bodies of state governance. If to talk about such an other interesting tool, it is also a tool that is a tool of technical aid. It is performed within involvement of help of the European Union. We have been working closely with the delegation of the EU to Ukraine, and it is the tool that our public servants really love. It's very flexible, it's very practical one, it's very fast in comparison with the project of twinning. And that's why now we also have lots of civil servants that have the opportunity to be engaged in such projects and such events. If you see that period that TAEX has been in Ukraine, more than 4,000 civil servants had the opportunity to improve their professional development in various forms. It can be seminars, can be expert missions, and of course study visits to EU country members to have the opportunity to get direct practical knowledge in those countries that are really working in this or that spheres and already have very positive, good experience. I would like to focus here in particular on cooperation with Sigma program. Definitely our colleagues, you have all heard about Sigma project program, because it is the most prestigious center of an analytical expert center of the European Union. Without expert conclusion of a Sigma project, one cannot achieve a successful conclusion, and it is impossible to get positive positions later on certain normative legislation acts, documents, positions, and so on. So that's why it is extremely important to have the support of the European Union. Thanks to experts of Sigma project, and they are also preparing expert conclusions on normative acts and not just on legislation in the sphere of public governance, public service, and Center for Adaptation is coordinating this matter. We are organizing working plans that expert society is focused on, and we are also cooperating pretty closely with our colleagues. As of now, it is impossible to implement state policy, European state policy in Ukraine without quality services, without quality of the very bodies of state governance. And today, implementation so-called CAF. It's this general system of assessment that is a very relevant tool as of now, and it is helping to improve the quality and to increase efficiency of the activity of locals of governance. And we're not only talking about the quality here, it's based on the self-assessment. And if to talk about assessment of system of management, quality management, Ukraine is an active implementer of this. And if to talk about coordinating component, then this adaptation has the status of Ukrainian National Resource Center of CAF, and our representatives, our employees have the status of national correspondents. We are officially recognized by the Institute of Economic Governance that we, as official representative, official resource center, working on improving the quality of the state bodies concerning the above-mentioned matters. And I can say that today we have very active support and coordination within CAF. This year we are also preparing the whole range of methodological materials, the whole range of new positions, so that governmental institutions, governmental bodies have the opportunity, with the help of methodological consultation support of our Center of Adaptation, have new knowledge, new opportunities to use CAF in the bodies of local self-governance, because really it's a European tool, advisory European tool, the best European tool in the sphere of public servants and public governance. I would like to stop my presentation here. There is a QR code, and this is the Center of Adaptation of state service to the standard of the European Union. Our website, also there is a QR code of the website of the National Agency of Ukraine on Civil Service, where you will also have the opportunity, and you always have the opportunity, to get their useful information. We are always ready for cooperation. And I would also like to emphasize and to mention once again that there is the opportunity, there is a possibility to and the chance to join to Q&A session on our YouTube channel. You can ask the question to our speakers. We will gladly answer them. And so far, I would like to continue our today's meeting. And it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor to Alexander. Alexander, I would like to express my gratitude to you as well, that you managed, as well as Yulia, to find this twice the several hours during your working day, because I understand that you have lots of tasks that have to be performed. Alexander, I'm extremely grateful for your presence here with us today, and I would like to give the floor now to Alexander Kuliev. Alexander Kuliev is the representative of the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers, a person who has been dealing with the negotiation process directly. So that's why, Alexander, please, the floor is yours. Thank you. Hello, dear colleagues. I hope that you can hear me well and that you can see my presentation and that everything is working technically wise. Yes, everything is okay. We can see everything. Thank you. So, Kuliev Alexander, the head of the expert group of bilateral institutions of association, and in the governmental office, I've been dealing with the horizontal coordination of negotiation process and also maintaining work of bilateral bodies between the Ukraine and the EU, created according to association agreement. And in my presentation, I would like to be as concise as possible, but still to be as clear as possible, and to tell you about the reality of our negotiation process, how it is right now, and our further plans. On this slide, you can see our main stages of a session via what we have already covered and what we might look forward to in the nearest future. From the main thing, as you know, on the 13th of December 2023, European Council approved this historic agreement on starting session negotiations. It has become possible first and foremost because Ukraine performed all 7 recommendations of the European Commission provided decided in 2022 after getting the status of the candidate country. On the 24th of June 2024, the first intergovernmental conference between Ukraine and the European Union took place, and it officially opened the negotiation process on Ukraine membership in the European Union. These exact stages showed us that we needed to create normative legislative structure of a negotiation process based on the decree of the president. You can see the number on the screen on delegation of Ukraine for participation in negotiations on accession to the European Union. It was defined also the members of the Ukrainian delegation. In such negotiations, there are 35 representatives of bodies of state governance, and the head of the delegation and the main negotiator was the Vice Prime Minister in the matters of European integration of Ukraine, Ministry of Justice of Ukraine. And apart from that, Cabinet Ministers of Ukraine adopted the resolution on certain matters of negotiation process on Ukraine EU accession, and it created consultative advisory body. It is interagency working group on negotiation process on accession, and within that they also created 36 working groups, task forces. They are about each negotiation chapters presupposed in our negotiation process. For interagency working group has to help in preparing negotiations on accession, in particular through consolidated formation by bodies of state governance negotiation positions on each chapter, planning, monitoring, assessment of effectiveness of performing recommendations of the European Commission, in particular support and preparing bilateral meetings, preparing offers to the national program of adaptation of legislation of Ukraine to the EU acquis, and also coordination of activity of ministers and other central bodies of executive government on matters of preparing and conducting negotiations. Such task forces also have a technical preparation to all these processes. Each working group, apart from such representatives of state governments, also have people deputies, representative of state organizations, business experts, and scientists. So with this tool, we tried to engage the most wide range of participants in our negotiation process. You all know that negotiations on accession is not plastic negotiations. We are rather talking here about, first of all, analysis of compliance of Ukrainian legislation to the EU acquis. So that's screening that we have been talking about. And also within this project, we need to define gaps and commitments to delete such gaps that Ukraine also have to perform, and also forming of certain reforms and implementation of legislation, or before accession or after that, if we have also such transition periods. Within such a negotiation process, acts of it's divided into 33 chapters, and we have several clusters. The first cluster is the basic of negotiation. It is the most difficult. It is first one to be opened and the last one to be closed. We also have cluster 2, internal market, cluster 3, competitiveness and inclusive development, cluster 4, Green Deal and sustainable development, cluster 5, it's resources, agriculture and cohesion policy, and cluster 6, these are external relations. The screening is an official procedure during which the European Commission, together with the country candidate within, right now it's Ukraine and Moldova, analyze the compliance of the national legislation of the country to the EU acquis. The screening is divided into two stages. The first stage is meetings. Euro Commission presents the state country norms of the EU acquis that have to be implemented on the moment of entering, a moment of accession, based on all 36 negotiation chapters. And the second, it's bilateral meetings where candidate country presents the stage of preparedness based on each negotiation chapter, demonstrates administrative capability within this project and presents plans. The first stage has already taken place from February to May 2024, and as colleagues have already mentioned today, we are now in the active process of bilateral meetings with the European Commission. After that, and we already finished 3 negotiation clusters. The first cluster, the basics, the 6th cluster, external relations, and cluster 2, internal market. And now we keep on working actively with the European Commission within the 3rd cluster, competitiveness and inclusive development. It was a pretty effective tool within the preparation to these meetings was conducting such mock sessions of Ukrainian delegation. These were 3 rounds of preparing meetings of Ukrainian delegation before the very bilateral meeting with the European Commission. And external experts were actively engaged, and international experts were actively engaged towards this as well, of the projects of international technical support. As of now, we have conducted 24 bilateral meetings within the screening. Ahead, we still have 10. Just mathematically, you might have a question why I'm talking about 34 bilateral meetings and there are 36 chapters, but actually several separate meetings might combine 2 chapters immediately. For example, that's how it was when the meeting covered 32nd chapter of financial control and also the reform of state governance. Actually, the process of the screening, as it has already been mentioned, will last till November 2025, and the last meeting is scheduled on the 15th of October 2025. According to the procedure, after the end of bilateral meetings on each of the separate clusters, the European Commission, during 6 weeks, is preparing the report. Based on the report on the cluster, and later it will be given to the European Council for decision-making on opening cluster for negotiation. You probably could have observed that we have a certain delay with the decisions from the EU on opening the first cluster because of the position of one of the countries, but we are very optimistic and we hope that in 2025 all 6 negotiation clusters will be opened. The necessary part of this project is also roadmaps. We have mentioned them today as well. We have already developed the projects of such roadmaps in the sphere of rule of law, state governance, democratic institutions. We also have developed action plan on national minorities protection. All these documents still have to be approved by the cabinet ministers of Ukraine, and after that they will be directed to the European Commission. The preparation of negotiation commission are in active process, and also they will discuss that at the sessions of interagency working group I have told you about, and also we have the development of the national adaptation that will include all the acts of the EU that Ukraine has to implement and to cancel all previous acts where we're talking about the commitments, and it will be one single document, the National Program of Adaptation. The association agreement, despite of the fact that we have pretty active processes on negotiations, we have active screening. It all does not exclude that Ukraine also has to perform its commitments defined in the association agreement. On the annual basis, we prepare a report on performance of such commitments, and based on the result of the report prepared, based on the result of 2024, Ukraine has a general process of the process of the progress of 2024 and from 2014 increased from 77% in 2023 to 81% in 2024. So we have 4% progress. Also, we have the work of the two bilateral bodies of association based on the agreement of association. We are talking here about the Council of Association, the Committee of the Association, Committee of the Association, and its subcommittees and dialogues. Generally, during 2024, we conducted 19 such sessions, and they are pretty technical dialogue with the side of the EU, and they presuppose, they include all the spheres that are included also in the association agreement. As you can see, the negotiation process is pretty complicated, multi-level, and it covers practically all the spheres of state governance. It requires specific coordination, significant resources, expertise, and time. We have lots of technical work ahead of us, adaptation of the legislation to the EU acquis, development of institutional capacity, performing our commitments on each of the negotiation chapters, but I'm pretty sure that we will be able to achieve our Euro integration goals, and the Office of Integration will help with its work to make this process faster. And I'm extremely grateful to all the colleagues that were present here today. I was really happy to see our partners. Thank you for their support as well on our Euro integration path, and thank you for attention, everyone. Alexander, we are extremely grateful, and I would like to say that yes, we do cooperate pretty closely with the governmental office, and it is a really powerful joint cooperation, and I'm pretty sure that we will keep on cooperating, not only in the context of negotiation process. Actually, it's pretty wide range of work of the governmental office, lots of tasks are there, and I'm really grateful, Alexander, that you have found this opportunity and this time to participate in our today's event. We are grateful for that, dear colleagues. Now we are moving to actually already the final part of our today's event. I would like to say that we have questions concerning, yes, by the way, concerning negotiating groups. Alexander, as far as I understand, that's the question to you. People are interested. As far as I understand, it is probably future negotiators. What are the requirements to the members of negotiation groups? Who are these people? So if you can answer, please. Yes, it's a pretty technical question. When working groups, negotiation groups were formed, there was the whole range of requirements, so-called indicators, that civil organizations had to comply with, scientific organizations. I unfortunately do not remember all of them because different colleagues were dealing with it. But for example, it was at least 5 years in a specific spheres, 5 years of experience in specific sphere, implementation of projects in a certain sphere. So this expertise on each chapter should be available, and actually on the basis of these indicators, colleagues selected representatives. I can state only that fact that we have pretty wide range of engagement of civil society and academia and business. So that's why I'm pretty sure that the colleagues, if you want to join, the process is open, and in the future you will be able to join. Thank you for this question. Thank you, Alexander. I would also like to mention that in a way we are also joined in this negotiation process and colleagues that have to be included. I would like to say that the higher school has a certain program on professional development, on negotiation process in particular. We started dealing with this matter several years ago, and there was one of the experts, Mr. Ribo, who taught our colleagues from the bodies of state government that take active part in negotiation process. He was teaching them how it was done in other countries, how it had been done in other countries. These were very practical classes, practical trainings. We have this information. It is on the website of the higher school. There is also information available on the website of the Center of Adaptation about those workshops that happened. So colleagues, I'm pretty sure that you will have the opportunity to have such trainings as well. It will increase your capabilities and the capacities of being professional in this process, because as Alexander has already proved today, the process is going on very actively, and Ukraine still has to do a lot for us to become a full-fledged members of the European Union. Thank you, Alexander, once again, and I'm extremely grateful to our colleagues. We have no further questions so far, because people have to digest this information, as they say, a little bit. They have to understand all of this, because really lots of information, lots of numbers, lots of diagrams, lots of information. So, dear colleagues, once again, I would like to express my gratitude. Okay, now we have questions. People are waking up, the classical. Well, then let's take one more question. Let's try to answer this. It's about training on CAF. Actually, it's understandable why there is this question. So let me explain it. First of all, this year, the bodies of state governments, there are certain provisions on self-assessment in bodies of state governments, and there will be certain trainings. We will start it in May, and we will have this big conference where representatives of bodies of state governance will take part. The conference will be broadcast online. You'll be able to join, and you'll be able to find more about CAF tools and how it is being implemented in Ukraine and how the training will happen. So please join, and really to have the information, to have new information, to have relevant information. Our website of the national agency that is being updated practically every minute, that information that appears in the sphere of state service is all available. The state portal, I'm really grateful to the colleagues from the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers. There are also lots of useful information, and it is a new Ministry of Economics, in particular gratitude, because we're also working actively with the Ministry of Economics, and we have lots of joint programs, joint documents. So that's why the information regarding the matter of Euro integration progress is available on the website of the Ministry of Economics. So all governmental bodies have their page on Euro integration processes in Ukraine, and there is an opportunity for all of you to join and to find that information available today at everybody of local state governments, and of course it's cooperation with our educational institutions, with our project of international technical support. And at the very end, I once again, using this opportunity, would like to express my gratitude to all our participants, all our colleagues. I would like to express my gratitude to the University Krok, Mr. Rector, for this opportunity for your representatives to take part today. I would like to express my gratitude to the colleagues from the Secretariat of Cabinet of Ministers, representatives of the Ministry of Economy of Ukraine. I would like to express my gratitude to our experts of the SIDE project, Council of Europe, and delegation of the EU to Ukraine. So all our participants that today had the opportunity to join to our events. Using this opportunity, once again, I would like to congratulate everyone on Day of Europe. I would like to wish us peace, prosperity, implementation of all these best European values in Ukraine. We are moving to the victory together. We are moving together to better Ukrainian future. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a nice day today. My congratulations on today's event, and see you later on our events. Thank you and goodbye.